welcome to another episode of Video Game Logic. Today's episode was recorded on September the 28th, 2021. I'm your host, gaming psychologist, and with me, as always, a gunslinger himself,
Caffeine Rage.
On today's show, we're going to be talking about our September Game Club, Call of Juarez Gunslinger. We will be revealing to you the Game Club for the month of October. Marvel's Avengers is coming to Game Pass this month. China bans live streaming by children under the age of 16. Twitch is reportedly launching new security tools to combat hate raids. Looks like Apple won't be letting Fortnite back on its devices anytime soon. And from our community corner, we got a tweet this week from someone about a change.org petition that is warning Activision. Finally, if time allows, we will be having a Steam Discovery queue. We got a decent amount of topics on there, though, so we will see. And timestamps, there they are, will be in the show notes following their respective topics.
Assuming our almighty editor remembers, and I don't have to prod him.
Oh, you called me almighty. I appreciate that.
Well, broken clock.
Stroking my ego. Among other things. Wink.
Ugh.
How you doing, buddy?
Well, I suddenly want to shoot myself. Can't imagine why.
Yep. That's fair. I will take that on the chin or something.
I'm not stepping into that one.
Yeah, probably a good idea not to. How has your past week been?
Been all right. Kind of crammed for Call of Juarez, but that's kind of by design because the game is somewhat short and I've played it before, so it's more of a refresher than anything else.
Yeah, I kind of accidentally crammed to...
Did you beat the game?
I did beat the game.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we'll go full spoilerific this time, right?
Yeah, definitely. But, yeah, other than Call of Juarez, I haven't done too much of anything. Listeners will note that there were no games played this week, because the only new game I played was Call of Juarez. I got a couple on the docket for next week, though. My dry spell with new games will be ending next week.
Yeah, I've been still chugging around on SnowRunner. Coming up on the end of one of the first DLC maps, probably in the next week or two, and also poking around on Game Pass stuff.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Similar.
I think I have a doubleheader coming up next week.
Yeah.
And I already kind of teased one last week, but yeah.
Yeah. Similar for me with SnowRunner. You are farther on the DLC maps than I am, but I'm pretty close to finishing Alaska. And have been tootling around on that. And then I've still been playing a lot of Mech HQ, just making sure I understand the entire tool set, because we started getting ready to actually do that RPG, or run the RPG game. So I'm like, alright, I gotta know how all these fucking tools work. So it's got some weird stuff in terms of, like, it's just like a JavaScript game. I don't know the right way to say it. But it's got some oddities with, like,
one
save
step
files.
up from a Flash game.
Right. But it's got some oddities with save files. And for some reason, if you put, like, save files in, like, a Google Drive folder and just have the game installed on multiple computers and then just pull the save files, it tends to corrupt them. So,
whoops.
I don't know how or why, it just eventually will pop up and be like, oh, there was an error, go to the log file, and you go look at the log file, and you get... I mean, maybe someone who understands JavaScript could figure out what was wrong with it, but I stare at it like, I don't know what this means. I don't know what any of this means.
Is this English?
It seems to run on some form of electricity. So I lost a really... like a long-standing save file that I had. I lost two of them, actually. So can't be having that with the RPG stuff. Can't lose their entire fucking save. I actually got it running out of flash drive and quarantined it away from everything. Seems to be working so far. But anyways, that was what occupied a lot of my time this past week. Whereas Call of Juarez,
yeah,
didn't so much because the game is fairly short.
Well, at least the primary game mode, but we'll get into that. So, Gameclub?
Yeah, Gameclub. So, Gameclub, for anyone who is new to our podcast, or, I don't know, has been, like, doing hardcore drugs for years and is just coming out of their stupor, it's where Rage and I plan to play the same game at the same time and discuss about it. Usually full spoilers, no holds barred. Occasionally we have held some stuff back on the Gameclub, but I don't think we're going to be doing that this week. For the month of September, we played Call of Juarez Gunslinger, which was a most excellent game. I want to say right off the top, before we go talk about it, this game is really thoroughly, I think would be thoroughly ruined if you didn't go into it as blind as possible. So I want to say that I love this game. It's going to be a top contender this year for the VGL Podcast Awards. If you haven't played it and you think there's a chance you might, go play it before you listen to
Especially
this.
since it goes on sale pretty damn cheap regularly.
Yeah, you will appreciate it. It is...
If you have any love for FPSs, or doubly so if you love the Old West or certain narration, play with narration. And that's borderline spoilers, but that's about as close as I could get without going into full-on spoiler mode, right?
Yep. If you're someone who's ever listened to me talk about ludology and think, oh wow, that's really interesting, then this is a game for you to play as spoiler-free as possible. So, with that sort of boilerplate disclaimer out of the way, we're about to dive in and spoil everything and talk about this lovely, interesting, at times weird experience.
Yeah, and this has been on the Master Game Club list since its inception, pretty much.
For years. Oh, goodness. I'm kind of glad
there's been several times I put it up in the choosing.
Yeah. I'm kind of glad that we've waited, though. It's one of those things that it's like, I loved it. I kind of wish I'd played it sooner, but also I'm glad I waited, because it's like, if I'd played this, say, 3 or 4 years ago, before I understood and knew quite as much as I did, and had studied about, like, film and storytelling and concepts like ludology and things like that, while it would have been neat, I think some of that would have been lost on me. So, I'm glad that, overall, I think I'm more glad than sad that it took us a while to play it. I guess starting with a little bit of backstory, Call of Juarez Gunslinger is the last game that has been made in the Call of Juarez franchise.
Yeah, and it has a loose connection, but not a... it's in the same universe, but there's not a strong connection to really any of the other Old West versions of the Call of Juarez series.
Yeah, the first 2 Call of Juarez games, the first aptly titled Call of Juarez and the second one, Call of Juarez Bound in Blood, are set in the Old West. Very good games. The first one is better than the second one, in my opinion. I remember it being much more memorable. It did some really interesting gameplay things with alternating characters and, sort of first person, like the entire game not being cutscenes, but being played out in first person, and doing the Half-Life 2 thing. Because Half-Life 2 came out in, 2004?
2001, I thought it was.
2001, maybe. Maybe it was even sooner than I'm thinking of. But Call of Juarez came out in, I think, 2005 or 2006.
Oh, no, 2004. I'm probably thinking something else for 2001. Yeah.
Yeah. But, so, I think that this, in some ways, was inspired by Half-Life and Half-Life 2 with the way that they, stayed in first person the entire time. But Call of Juarez is excellent. Bound in Blood is good, but ultimately less memorable. Then the third game, Call of Juarez The Cartel...
Wasn't that the one that had a big to do with being very racist?
The Cartel?
I remember...
Or Bound in Blood?
Call of Juarez The Cartel, I think.
Yeah, it's set in modern times for when the game came out, like the 2010s or something like that. And it's like doing some Old West themes and motifs, but it's a modern military shooter, more or less, and it's very racist. You're in I haven't played it. All of this stuff I'm kind of remembering from like Zero Punctuation and a few other things, but it's like you're like DEA agents, in the border town of Juarez, like chasing cartel people, and it's of its decade, of its time. You know, like, it feels weird to say that because it's only like 10 or 12 years ago, but so much has fucking changed in the last decade with how we approach this kind of stuff. It was still very much of that period where it's like gay jokes were the norm, and, you know, shitting on other cultures that weren't America was like the cool thing to do for everybody, not just, you know, the hardcore right-wing assholes. But it was a bad game. It was terrible. It was critically panned. It was probably what killed the series. They went back.
I did a little bit of research. It looks like the cartel, basically extra credits, went hardcore on this game. It's the most racist thing I've ever played from a major publisher, and several other places picked that up, and that's probably where I remember it from.
Gotcha. But it was a huge flop. It was critically panned. It was a commercial flop. Probably was what led to the death of the series. Gunslinger was, after they did a poll, game made by Ubisoft, published by Ubisoft. There was a poll done and some teasing done about how, like, oh no, we're going to go back to the Old West, and look, here's a tease of some of the people that we're going to feature in our game, like Jesse James and, you know, other outlaws who, even though I have just played for 2 days, like a bunch of outlaws, like they have sort of left my brain. But, you know, this whole list of outlaws.
Pretty much every single outlaw. Yeah,
Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid and Jesse James and the Plinkertons and, you know, on and on and on. All the highlights, sort of that Western sort of mythos of the outlaw, you know, outlaws. But anyways, so then Gunslinger came out, critically successful, not commercially successful. You know, I just think too much damage had been done to the franchise by that point.
Yeah, let's just put it this way. So I went to the Call of Juarez Wikipedia page, and it gives a good aggregate review score. So Call of Juarez, the first one, 2006. Metacritic 72 out of 100 for PC, 71 out of 100 for Xbox. And I don't like using Metacritic, but it's what they're using. So yeah, Bound in Blood 78, 77 out of 100 for PC, PS3, and Xbox 360, respectively. The Cartel. 51, 45, 47.
Yeah.
And then Gunslinger is back up to 79, 75, 76, 72.
Yeah. But again, you know, I just think too much damage was done to the series with the Cartel and Gunslinger when it didn't perform, you know, wasn't as commercially successful as they, I'm sure, wanted. They canned the franchise.
Yeah, yeah, they pretty much poisoned the well with the Cartel, and it seems like Gunslinger has kind of become a cult hit over the years, just with you know, that long tail, and also the fact that it drops down to sub $5 several times a year.
Yeah. But so the game itself is a first-person shooter with some light RPG mechanics. You gather XP that you can spend on some basic skills related to your 3 primary weapons, and there can be some extra effects from these as well. It's not they're not exclusively tied to the weapons, and from what I can tell, unless it specifically says, you know, affects whatever weapon, then it's a boost that affects everything. But it's first person shooter. The sort of premise is that your
Silas
Greaves is which is a fun thing, like a thematic name.
Yeah.
But anyways, your character has been chasing some people to get revenge on them.
He turns up in this plot.
Yeah, he turns up in this saloon and is, you know, having a few drinks with people there and telling them the story of his, you know, his adventures. And you're playing the adventures while he tells them to this group of patrons at the bar.
Yeah, there's Ben, Dwight D. Eisenhower. And
Yep.
no, I'm not joking. The president,
No,
or future president.
Yep, future president Dwight Eisenhower.
Jack. And I'm blanking on the woman's name.
Is it Molly?
Damn it. Now I'm like, wait a minute. Right?
Yeah.
It's basically a group of 4 characters that you only really see mostly in just these single frame, cutscenes. And the entire thing is played out like a old comic book where it's very limited animation with voiceover. And it's done excellently.
Yeah.
And they really set the theme of this being kind of the twilight of the Wild West, because the intro is the main character is almost thrown off his horse by a car driving by.
Yeah.
It's 1910, by the way. So, the age of the cowboys coming to the end, and pretty soon we're gonna see World War One, and right.
Yeah. The main, I don't want to say gimmick. I feel like they do it in such a way that it's not just a gimmick, but the main sort of thing that sets this game apart.
How about hook?
I guess. Yeah, the hook of this game is that the stories that are being told by unreliable narrators. So primarily Silas is telling the story, but occasionally one of the other characters will interject. For example, Dwight,
who is a big fan of the dime novels, which was essentially the comic books of the day.
Yeah, he pipes in a few times. He's like, "Oh, I read about this. This happened." And then there's another couple times that the other characters will chime in, like an event that they were all at together, and they're sort of telling their version of the story. So unreliable narrators, and as you're playing, things change, and sometimes there's small things. Like, there's one part early on where that you're running across some rooftops, and it's like, how'd you get across the roof? And he's like, oh, there was, I forget exactly how he says it. But
there was a ladder I didn't notice until that moment.
Yeah, and then like a ladder sort of falls out of the sky in place for you to climb down and give you access to a path that there wasn't access to before. So there's sometimes that it's small like that, or, like a tree will fall down or a rock will move or something like that. Then there are bigger moments where that it will do something and then kind of rewind you a moment. So at the very beginning of the game, in like the first level, you go into a barn and you're supposed to be like confronting like the sheriff that's trying to capture you. And is this with Billy the Kid? Is Billy the Kid the first one? Yeah. So you're with Billy, like you're part of Billy the Kid's like posse.
And it's Molly, by the way.
Yeah, Molly. Okay. And you're like going to round up the horses to try to escape, and like the sheriff shows up, and Dwight pipes in. He's like, "Oh yeah, I read about this in the dime novels. You had a showdown, and you gave him an honorable death." And then you use the game's. This is where it introduces the dueling mechanic,
which is a holdover from the other ones, but this one, it splits the duel into 2 parts: a focus mechanic and a speed mechanic, where you're kind of controlling the cursor while also trying to keep your hand near your gun as it slowly lowers towards it. And the more that you keep the cursor also active on the on your target, and the more that you keep your hand near your gun as it reaches down, the higher both your focus and your speed goes up, which reflects on how quickly you draw your gun, but also how quickly your aim comes into focus to be able to shoot the opponent. Mind you, you don't exactly have to be honorable in this. You do take a point hit and an experience hit, but you can just gun down somebody.
Yeah. But so you do that scene, like you have the duel with the sheriff and you kill him. And then Silas is like, "Nah, kid, that ain't how it happened." And it rewinds. It does the rewind sound, sort of plays everything back.
Like a VCR.
Yeah, like a VCR, and it goes back like 30 seconds. You run into the barn again, and this time he like clocks you.
Yeah, clocks
He pistol whips you and knocks you out. And he's like, wait a second, that's not what the novel said. And he's like, well, kid, they don't always tell it straight like in the novels. So this sets you up initially to believe Silas, which I love this. I'm going to have to be careful because I want to talk about all of this in like one go, how this does its storytelling. But so, there's moments like that. There's a huge moment in the, is it the third level? You're going into a mine.
Yeah.
You're chasing after basically like a dirty cop who's been like exploiting people in the town, and you get hired by a group of, I don't remember what it was, like vigilantes or something. I was like, yeah, the sheriff's actually an outlaw. Go take him out. And so you go.
It was the Magnificent One, episode 3. The game is split into various episodes.
Yeah. But so you chase after him, and he's in this mine, and you get to an area, and it's like, so I had a couple of choices about what I was going to go. My first thought was to go down just straight in the main mine shaft. And there's like a little bridge that, appears, and you go across, and you go through, I don't know, 10 minutes of level. And he's like telling that, he's piping in, and he's talking about stuff.
And talking about how the mine shaft is laced with dynamite, and you have to be careful, otherwise you're going to blow yourself to Kingdom Come. And
yeah. And you get to the end of it, and you there's an explosion, and you jump out of the cave and shoot a few people, and then you get hit with a minecart and die. And then he's like, but I knew that idea was just as moronic as it was suicidal. And again, it rewinds you all the way back. And he's like, but luckily I looked over, and there was a ladder I had missed before, or something like that. And you climb down a ladder, and it reveals an alternate path, which is the actual way to go.
And then there's another option where you can take an elevator down and get jumped, or circle around. And he'll talk about if you circle around. Well, since I was already warmed up, I figured I could use the exercise and get the drop on them. And you circle around behind these guys and just blast them away.
Yeah. Which that's the option that I picked.
The same, but I was also playing in Game Plus mode, which we kind of glossed over. There's 3 main modes. There's the story mode, which is 10 or so hours long. I mean, it's not terribly long, but also doesn't overstay its welcome,
Yeah, I don't even think it's 10 hours long.
Well, first time through, with counting a few deaths and that sort of thing. There's an arcade mode where you go through the levels again as a kind of a score attack, and then you can replay the duels once again for score. Yeah, but I was going in with Game Plus, which I already had all of my skills unlocked, so I was basically playing as Silas Greaves described it, just a one-man army.
Yeah, according to this completion,
how long to beat?
Yeah, how long to beat? Main story, just over 5 hours. Which tracks. It took me about 6 hours to play through it. Steam says I've played for 10 hours, but I started at 4, because that would have been ran by an idle bot once upon a time. So it took me about 6 hours to play through the story.
Which probably is why it has quite a few negative reviews, or... I guess 70 is not a terrible review for 2013, but these days, right?
Yeah. But so that's its sort of main gimmick, I suppose you could say, is that it's an unreliable narrator, and it utilizes the gameplay mechanics, the ludonarrative, in a way that you just don't see very often with games.
Yeah, why haven't we seen another game steal this? Because, oh damn, there's 2 levels that really show it off, and that's the bank and the train.
Yes. Well, which train? There's 2 trains.
Oh, the train where the narrator actually gets up for time.
Oh, okay. Where you're going after Jesse James.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he gets up and he walks away, and you listen to the other characters talk while you're going through a couple of empty rail cars.
Yeah.
Talking about him.
Uh-huh. I thought that was just brilliant.
They did. There's a couple other small moments too, like they're on the level with the swamp. Whenever what's his name, Steve, falls asleep.
Yeah.
And so when they wake him up, and he's like, so there it was. The Apache showed up. I was like, wait, there were Apache, and you spend I don't know, 30 seconds fighting them, and in your head you're like, this doesn't make any sense, and they're like, wait, there were Indians? He's like, nah, I was just making sure you were paying attention, and they all just like poof away.
Sort of like the Stagecoach where you were fighting Indians, but it was because he misspoke, and it was the bandits attacking him Apache style. So it all poofs away, and then it replaces them with the actual bandits instead of Native Americans.
Yeah. Like, moments like that. There's lots of little things like that dotted throughout. And then there's those few big moments, like you said, when he walks away and goes to the bathroom, and they talk about him while you play the game.
Or doing the bank mission like 3 different ways.
Yes, which was really interesting. Just because it really is 3 drastically different ways.
And probably none of them the truth.
No, probably not.
But that kind of sets up where we're going with the story as well, is that, it's this idea of the Old West being romanticized, and, all the stories being, that negative truth, which there's pieces of historical stuff that you can find in the game as nuggets of truth that tells you more about, various characters and what actually happened to them, what they were actually like, which is a nice little collectible outside of just, being something to grab. But the truth probably is somewhere in between the legend and what history said, right?
Yeah. There's a podcast I listen to called Our Fake History. It's huge. I wouldn't be surprised if a number of our listeners have heard it before and maybe even actively listened to it. But it's that that's sort of the thesis statement for the entire podcast. Is it's like, what's truth, what's not truth, and what's such a good story that we have to tell it anyways. Like, where does the actual truth lie? Somewhere probably between these myths and what we can find in historical record. And he did several episodes on the Old West and, characters from the Old West, like Jesse James and stuff, and Jesse James and Billy the Kid and a couple others. So, but yeah, it very much leans on that idea of the mythologized, the mythology of the West. Kind of like how we have romanticized, like, the Age of Sail and pirates, like the same thing with cowboys and outlaws. And...
No, time traveling pirates totally was a thing.
Right. But anyways, the story itself, I think I'm ready to talk about this if you're okay. So the story itself is told in a very interesting way, like thematically. So it starts out fairly grounded.
Well, also it's not told in linear in chronological order either. You have to.
No, I was going to get to that.
It doesn't get to the actual story for quite a few episodes, actually.
Yeah, but it starts off fairly grounded, and you have sort of laying the groundwork, both for the Old West, to anyone who's perhaps not, like a historian or has much more than a passing interest in it. It lays out the groundwork for the West. You start with some very familiar characters like Billy the Kid. I think everybody knows who Billy the Kid is, at least, or has heard of him, and so your character is like just a part of the posse, helping out, doing what he needs to do, to survive and get by, And some of the stuff you can recognize as a gamer is like, okay, this is just like, they're adding extra enemies for the gameplay variety, but he's telling this story like it was just a few guys, and doing a task, and he was scared and, saw some people that he knew and liked die. Like, it's very grounded. And then you get the thing with the sheriff where that you have like the fanciful like showdown at high noon thing, and then he's like, nah, kid, that's not how it went down. And it goes back and it shows him getting like knocked out.
And then waking up in jail. Like he's in the beginning of an Elder Scrolls game.
Yeah, exactly. But so it brings you in initially. Like, this is a storytelling mechanic, generally speaking, not just for the game, but a way that you can tell stories in a way that you can get people to trust you with things that maybe they shouldn't. which is that you start very grounded, very small. You make yourself seem extremely relatable, and that's how the story starts. And the first few levels where it's introducing these ideas of the unreliable narrator with, like you said earlier, that he misspoke. And so instead of it being Apache, Indian warriors going after him, he's like, no, I said it was like that. And that, so it replaces it with the regular, bandits. And then the thing about the mine is he's kind of musing. It's played up as like he's kind of musing on what it would have been like to go down the main shaft, but then actually he did the smart thing and went around. So it spends 3-ish chapters, sort of the first third of the game, the first act, I guess, really, drawing you, the player, in, and also within the game, drawing in the people who are sitting here listening to him tell the story. And in the second act are where things start to dip into that, like, mythology area. Like, okay, like, so these aren't the way that things are talked about in history, but he's like, I was there. This is my eyewitness account. And you start to get things that are a little weird. Like, the bank heist going a few different ways. And talking about, like, some of the feuds, the whole deal with the swamp, like going into the swamp and finding, like, the crashed riverboat and the Gatling gun, being on there, like, okay, that seems like a bit of a stretch, but still kind of, within this romanticized idea, like, it seems plausible to someone who, sort of fascinated with the idea of the Old West. And then we get into the third, act of the story where it just goes
off
bonkers.
Yeah.
Way off the rails, literally and metaphorically, since I think that it starts kind of with the Native American thing, when I forget what the guy is that he's chasing after. Grey Wolf. It kind of starts with that, but it's like you can almost buy it. Like, it uses sort of the mysticism aspects of Native American spiritualism.
And also the fact that he relates something that's completely different than what Grey Wolf said in the level.
Yeah. But, it gets you to sort of tiptoe over the edge with the spiritualism angle. Like, okay, he's like having some kind of trip or whatever. Like, that's fine. Like, and then it goes off the rails. And suddenly there are way more enemies, and it gets way more bombastic and way more, like, just total fabrications from history, that he's telling as a part of his story. And the players, or the people who are listening to him are like, okay, like, this is like some bullshit. Like, this is they call it a fairy tale. Like, somebody calls it a fairy tale. And he stops really sort of, for a while he's defending himself, Silas. And then he stops defending himself. And at one point he sings "Oh Death."
Yeah.
Which
creepily,
that was,
by the way,
really creepy. Jeez. Like, I got chills playing that.
Well, and this is also the part where he's also messing with one of the characters directly.
Yes. And that's, it starts out really subtle, and I was like, okay, hang on a second. Is he the guy? Because he's trying to chase. So his story, Silas Greaves, is that he and his two brothers were hung and left for dead.
Yeah, they were running cattle and essentially robbed.
Yeah, they were robbed, hung, and left for dead. And his two brothers died
because they were bigger.
Because they were bigger, and so they they weren't hung properly, so it didn't break their necks. They were choking to death. But the three of them were enough weight that it broke the tree branch. But because they were bigger, they choked to death first. And so he survived, and his two brothers died. And he's been chasing down his entire life the gang that did that to him so that he can get revenge by killing them.
And don't forget, they were real bastards to him. They left him an old Spanish coin with the ending word saying, well, don't let me say I never left you with nothing. Put it in his mouth, and then scared the horses off and left them to choke until the branch broke, but his two brothers were already dead. So he was after Bob and Jim.
Yep. And he kills Jim in the middle of his adventures. But it's told out of order, so that happens later in the story than it should have on the time scale. And then he's going after Bob. And Bob is, what was his name? Ben?
Mm-hmm.
In the bar. in the bar, there's this character named Ben who turns out to be Bob. But, I mean, there's really no way you could have figured that out until, like, the third act. And Silas starts dropping some hints and is, like, sort of pulling some information out of him.
Well, there's also a couple times at the loading screen tips. They talk about Silas suspecting something.
Oh,
right.
I didn't read those.
Well, I didn't pay attention to him my first time through, and when I was going through again, I noticed it.
Oh, okay.
But that's kind of the PC tax of, oh, well, we don't get to see those that much because, right?
Yeah, the game's installed on my SSD. It loads in, like, seconds. And I'm a fast reader, but not that fast. So, but there are these hints that are being dropped throughout, and as the story gets more bombastic, you know, he's sort of making direct call-outs and direct jabs at this Bob guy, you know, sort of starting to tip his hand.
Ben.
Ben. Okay.
And,
you know.
and the entire time, he's kind of nudging Ben anyway, you know, constantly, like, agitating him.
Yeah.
And as he gets more out there, you know, he's kind of nudging him again. And then the moment where the shoe drops, as he mentions Jim Reed. While Silas never mentioned the guy's last name.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it's like, okay, he's like, I got him, you know. But it's done so well. Just, mwah. I love it. The build up, the crescendo, sort of the drop at the end. We'll talk about that in a second. But
and also that last level.
Yeah. Where you're, like, fighting the ghosts of your past.
Yeah, literally.
That's what he describes it. He's literally fighting the ghosts of his past. But that, I mean, that all, like, while you're playing it in gameplay, that's very clearly metaphorical. Like, he's struggling with the decision. Like, it's foreshadowing the ending decision you get to make. As he struggles with the demons of his past. But, yeah, the story, just, there's so much, you know, beyond, you know, besides just, like, the sort of romanticization of the West, there's all these themes that are dropped in and sort of, like, teased out and explored through the story. You know, the idea of, like, you know, he's dealing with his demons, how he uses gameplay to portray that in that final level, like we were just saying. Like, you go from fighting regular enemies to just fighting ghosts. You know, and they're actual, like, ghost or spectral enemies instead of...
Yeah, and one of the characters are talking about, well, my grandpappy talked to dogs for the rest of his life whenever he hurt his head.
Yeah. And they're sort of, like, making fun of him, but it's like he's, you know, metaphorically working through his demons there. But it's... Boy, it's good. There's so much in here. It deserves a second playthrough where that I can look for additional things that, you know,
especially,
I might have missed the first time around.
Especially in Game Plus mode.
Yeah. So the ending of the game, you get through all of this stuff, and then Silas reveals that he knows that Ben is the guy he's been chasing all these years. And you as the character get to make the final decision. Do you kill him to get your revenge, or do you let him go and show him mercy? And I guess sort of redeem your character.
Yeah, because especially towards not that last level, because that goes completely bonkers, but even the one before that, you know, he's talking about how much he hates what he's become and how he's become even worse than what the people he's chasing were.
Yeah. So I know you've played through it at least, I guess, twice now.
Yeah, I mean, I typically take the redemption ending instead of the revenge, even though it is a revenge story. It has a more cohesive tone to it than the revenge. Did you look at both?
No, I did not. I picked the revenge ending. I got the violence begats violence achievement, which is kill your nemesis honorably in a duel. I don't know if you kill him unhonorably, if there's a different achievement, or dishonorably.
Yeah, but your nemesis is also north of 70, so yeah, it's an incredibly easy duel.
Well, yeah, yes. Gameplay-wise, it's very easy. But your character also is, like, in his 60s.
Yeah.
He says that he's an old man, like, he,
Mhm.
you know, in his 60s trudging through the swamp or something like that, like he says on that last level.
Yeah, the redemption ending, instead of having that final duel, the final duel is actually the Mexican showdown between Silas, the Sundance Kid,
Butch Cassidy
yeah,
and the Sundance Kid.
Butch Cassidy. I blanked for some reason because but that's the last duel instead of the one against your nemesis, Bob.
Yeah.
Which honestly feels a little bit better theme-wise as well, but instead of handing him a gun to force him to duel, you give him back the coin and saying and repeated the line, don't say I never left with nothing. Talk to a couple of the characters about not letting your past haunt you and letting go of vengeance, particularly to Dwight.
Yeah. Yeah, I figured it would be something like that. Something that's, a redemption arc. He probably gives a speech or something.
Not a terribly long one. He has a few lines, but that's about it. It's not any longer than the final cutscene of the revenge ending.
Yeah. The revenge ending, there's a lot of... Who's the voice actor for Silas? That dude fucking, nails it. He is so good at, one, playing sort of the gravelly cowboy when he needs to, but then he can really get deep and, show remorse and get into sort of his fury.
John Saigon.
That speech he gives, at least for the revenge arc, or not exactly speech, but sort of the build-up to the duel, you can hear the malice and the hatred, dripping from those voice lines. Dude's a good voice actor.
Yeah, I'm looking at his IMDb right now, and he has a lot of secondary roles, but nothing outside of movies, because he was in Toy Story, because of course, right?
Mm-hmm.
He was in Kingdoms of Amalur: Re-Reckoning as Argrath. He's in Red Dead Redemption 2. There you go, right?
The local pedestrian population.
You just all of them.
Despicable Me 3, additional voices. Final Fantasy 15, additional voices. He needs another character role. Another, I'm gonna have to get some money and, fund this guy to do a project for me.
Well, it's going to be a little tough because he's kind of dead.
Is he really dead?
May 13th, 2017.
Well, shit.
I'll get the
Died
shovel.
at 63. Yep, let's go dig him up.
Does explain why, he kind of stopped doing stuff a few years ago, huh?
Yeah.
And also, that age is a little fitting for the character, huh?
Oh, apparently he was... Okay, so Call of Juarez the Cartel, he played somebody called Michael Duke. I don't know what character that is, but... Dead Island, he played Dr. West. Farron for Lord of the Rings War in the North. Oh, he played Leo in The Darkness. Colonel Barnsby in Call of Juarez Bound in Blood. Okay.
Yeah, and
so he's got some games that I'm going to have to go...
allow me to say fuck cancer.
Right.
Because that's what got him.
Oh my fucking god. He's Canderous Ordo from Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic. The Mandalore. He's the Mandalorian in that game.
Ah.
That's amazing! I always liked Canderous. I had no idea. I always liked his voice. I always thought he had a good voice actor. I had no idea. Him and Karth Onassi in that game, both excellent voice actors. Well, I'm gonna have to, go watch some YouTube videos or play some old games or something. Sweet. Okay.
Yeah, he was also a couple of characters in Destroy All Humans. I mean, he had a lot of supporting roles, but it seemed like he never was the central character outside of this.
Yeah.
For voice work, that is. A real damn shame, huh?
Yeah. He was a serious vocal talent. Okay.
And fucking haunting when he sang that. Whew.
Oh, yes. Jesus. Very reminiscent. I don't know if he was inspired by this, but very reminiscent of "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou" when they sing that song.
Yeah,
near the end of the movie.
Especially since the part of the level, you're facing down this rock slide as well.
Yeah. Let's see. What else? We've barely talked about the gameplay mechanics. I mean, it is a first-person shooter. Mm-hmm. It's got solid mechanics.
Yeah, it is a bit on the more simplistic side. You only have a handful of weapons. You could, assuming that you unlocked it in skills, you could dual-wield revolvers. You have either a pistol. Well, pistols are pretty much always there. There's a couple different ones that you could unlock through skills and such. There's a rifle, a shotgun, and a sawed-off shotgun with various benefits and detriments.
Yep, and you also have dynamite you can throw because it's the Old West. And then there's you've got a standard melee attack if you need it, but I almost never used it.
I never used it in my second playthrough, or this playthrough, I guess I should say, which is like I think the third.
Yeah, but the like we said, at the beginning, like the RPG light mechanics are mostly just little boosts, like you can reload faster, or you get a little bit of sort of bullet time whenever you go to aim.
Yeah, that's what we didn't talk about, is the kind of the bullet time. There's two main things. There's a bullet time that they call blink, I think it is, where as you kill enemies, you charge it up. And then you can use it for a bullet time-like effect. And it also highlights characters, which that is one detriment, is that characters can blend in rather easily, but it's also Old West, so it kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
But it highlights characters and it allows you to, aim, get shots on them pretty easily, and it also gives a bonus points, which translates into, better score, which is more XP if you're not maxed out like I was. But it also allows you to chain together kills a lot easier, which also boosts up your scores, and really good for the arcade mode. And then there's the cheat death mechanic, which pops up a few times in the story as narrative as well, where if it's not a boss or just a straight out kill or a Gatling gun, you have a chance to dodge out of the way of a bullet that would otherwise kill you, and with the proper skills, it gives you an automatic shot against whoever did that. But it's also used as a way out of a failed QuickTime event, which is a nice touch.
Yeah. Because
there's quite a few times that you'll suddenly be like surrounded or somebody jump out. You'll get a reflex shot on them. Press WASD. If you hit the wrong one, they'll get a shot off, and you can dodge it and then shoot them back to use that mechanic. Which, like I said, it's nice to see them use QuickTime events, but also not make it an automatic lose situation.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Then there's the dueling mechanics, which are, they're okay.
I mean, they're essentially boss fights, but it's, there's a few boss fights that don't take place in the duel, but they're few and far between.
Yeah, like there's one where that, you're chucking dynamite at like this little cabin thing.
Yeah.
And you have to like blow that up with enough dynamite.
Yeah, enough to knock it off the hillside. And then one of the characters piped up saying, I know for sure that guy's giving tours of the family farm out in Montana. Well, I never said he died. He just went off
I never said the fall killed him. Yeah. But it's, yeah. The dueling mechanics are, you kind of already described them. It gets old. I don't really care all that much for the duels. I think that they should have been even fewer and far between, because they kind of, for the most part, mark off the end of a chapter. You have a duel with the guy you've been chasing. Not every chapter, but most of them. And after 2 or 3, I was kind of done. The Mexican standoff one was interesting just because they added that extra mechanic of like having to watch both of the other guys and
and also
your focus.
both. Yeah, your focus had to bounce back and forth as well because, right?
Yeah, that was interesting, but I think that would have also gotten old after a couple more. So that's really the only part of the game that for me kind of overstayed its welcome. Like the combat is
on that one.
The combat itself in general is good enough. Like the focus of this is the story and the storytelling mechanics, but the combat is good. And at worst, it sort of just blends in well. But there are moments where it stands out, especially where you do some cool stuff, like, you dive off of something and, shoot 4 guys in the head in sort of a pseudo quick time event, but it integrates really well, so it doesn't feel super quick timey. Like, especially not in the ways that it does, where it's like you go into focus mode or whatever, and it's like you press, WA, S, and D to shoot the guys, before they, shoot you, or you could sort of fail the event and have to go back to fighting normally. Sort of the the one that sticks out of my mind the most is the mine. Whenever you jump out after the explosion down into like the lake or whatever, like you can shoot. You don't have to, but you can shoot like 5 or 6 guys on your way down, as part of that sort of quick timey-esque event, and it feels really well integrated in. So, anyways, yeah, combat, at the very least, 1 thumbs up. At sort of its worst, it does not interfere with the game.
How about this? It does nothing egregious, which for first-person shooters, that's kind of a bonus on its own these days, right?
Right.
Combat-wise, there's nothing that really stands out. It's all on the narrative side of things is where this game is extraordinary.
Yes.
It's a pretty standard first-person shooter, wrapped in an absolutely amazing story and a great narration device that I wish was stolen. I wish we saw more of this.
Absolutely. I want to see more of this. I want to find more games like this. I love it. I don't think I have much else, if anything, to say about it. I mean, I'm going to let it marinate for a while, and then I want to give it a second playthrough, because it is the perfect length for that. Like 5.5, 6 hours. Like, it does the story sort of build up, and then sort of, after your, sort of the peak of your second act, like, it really, like, brings you in for a swift landing. Like, it does it perfectly. I think I could see how someone might feel it was a little bit rushed at the very end, but I think that's the point. That's the thing. Like, I think it's doing it on purpose as a narrative
Well, there's also
device.
a long time skip because the game takes place over, 20, 30 years?
Yeah, something like 30 years.
So I definitely see how there would have been room for more, but it's also hitting the highlights, and it's meant to, kind of, mess with this one character as well.
Yeah.
So
and this story
more
is
directed toward this one particular character, trying to make him blink to, see what type of person they are and how they came out, but also to, see if that actually is who I think it is.
Yeah. And the storytelling aspect is supposed to take place over, an afternoon. Like, a guy wanders into a saloon and sits down and has a few drinks and tells, a big story. So it makes sense that it's like, whenever you're bringing it in for a landing on your story, you're going to kind of speed through the ending part to make your point, so to speak. So good. This is definitely going to wind up on a couple of things for me on the VGL Awards. And we'll see how the last few Gameclub games of the year go. This has been a weird year for Gameclub anyways. Like, we've had much fewer than normal just because of issues.
I blame myself.
Earlier. But, I mean, there have been a couple of decent games in here, like a normal Lost Phone / another Lost Phone. Like, that gaming pair was really, really good. And I really liked it and felt moved by it in some ways. And this is a different sort of movement. Like, that one, that pair, the Lost Phone, pair, sort of touched me in a very, it's very sincere and very meaningful.
Sort of like how you used to touch me?
Yes. Wink. And so they stand out in my mind for this year as well. But this is like a beautiful historical sort of myth telling and myth making of the Old West. And it's beautiful and touching in a altogether different way. Like, so it's still been, I think, overall, like a pretty solid year for the game clubs that we've had. So, but I do think this is going to win a couple things for me in this year's VGL Awards. What about you? You got any final thoughts or anything?
Oh, I mean, I think I've pretty much already said what I wish, because I didn't go into this game blind. I played this one a couple times already, so kind of while I was pushing it, honestly, kind of from the start of Game Club.
Yeah.
But it's also it has this weird kind of balance of making you feel powerful, but also making you feel overwhelmed, because it feels at times like one of those old light gun games where, it's the entire bandit encampment coming down on you. But at the same time, with how the game kind of fudges things and, lets you get out of what should have been, a deadly situation, it makes you feel absolutely incredible, but wrapped up in this narrative of revenge story, but maybe not.
Yeah.
And I absolutely love that bank mission where there's one where you're going in with just guns blazing in the front door, another one where you're sneaking in, and it just, I wish everybody could play this game. Although I know it's definitely not for everyone, especially if you don't like first-person shooters. Even on its lowest difficulty, it can be a bit much if you're not a pretty quick shot, because they do throw a lot of enemies at you, and there's only so much that the game will let you fudge.
Yeah.
Which is probably a little bit of a detriment. But overall, well worth it, and a real standout for Game Club, especially this year.
Yeah, absolutely. I love this game. Full 2 thumbs up. Hardcore recommend. Great game. Love it. I would also recommend, because playing this game made me think of the Ballad of Buster Scruggs, which I mentioned this to you earlier, Rage. Yeah. But anyone who's listening, it's on Netflix. It's a sort of a little anthology series they created. It's 6 short stories that are put together in like a 90-minute package. The titular Ballad of Buster Scruggs is the first story that is told, and it is the one that most closely resembles the idea of what this is, sort of the mythology of the Old West, with a character who's a little bit sort of, bombastic and outlandish, but in a different way to Silas. But it does the film thing of like breaking the fourth wall and stuff, but it's neat. It made me think of it. So also as like a little aside, like if you've never seen it, go watch the Ballad of Buster Scruggs, at least the first story, which is the Ballad of Buster Scruggs. The others get honestly much darker and much more sad as it dives into sort of it starts off very fanciful and then gets like darker and darker as it gets more towards like the nitty gritty, like realism of day-to-day people living in the Old West. The final story is a little bit fanciful as well, but it also is super fucking like creepy. So anyways, yeah, Ballad of Buster Scruggs. Little slight addendum recommend in there at the end of Juarez Gunslinger.
Yeah, and I guess with how fanciful and how crazy things get, especially in the last third, it reminded me of Brisker County Jr. Completely different way it takes its tone. Very light, very comical. But also there's a lot of, winks to, breaking the fourth wall and the future of where things would go for certain things, but there's a sci-fi element to it as well. It's a really good show. That shame it didn't get more than one season, but that's Bruce Campbell for you, huh?
Yeah, for sure. All right. So that was our September Game Club. our October game club going into Spoopy Month.
Yeah, to Spook Timber.
Right. We are going to be playing Darkest Dungeon. This is one that has also been on the list for a while, and we've passed over it a couple of years for October
especially,
for other games.
Like Alan Wake, 3 times?
Yeah. But I'm looking forward to this. I think I was the one who put Darkest Dungeon on the list a few years ago. Or if you put it on there, I've lobbied hard for it a couple of times. And so now it's finally Darkest Dungeon's time to be drab and dreary and depressing. So, let's see. The next game club is 4 weeks, October the 26th. So anyone who is listening and wants to play, you got 4 weeks to do it. Darkest Dungeon is also a game that
I don't think we're going to get through
goes on sale pretty frequently.
I mean, to be honest, right?
Yeah. We'll see. This is gonna be a game, since it's turn-based, I'm gonna install it on my laptop to have to play at work. That's probably the primary way I will be playing it over the next few weeks. Yeah, Darkest Dungeon. So, ready to move on to our news topics for the week?
Let's do it.
Well, by the way, we spent about 50 to 55 minutes talking about...
Well, also, we didn't have games we played, so that makes the episode a lot shorter than usual.
Right, but just, we said we figured we'd talk about it for a while, and we did, so we were right this time.
Woo.
It'll probably get crunched down a little bit in the edit, just like removing excess silence and stuff, but still, good solid discussion. Okay, God. Oh, there's he gone. Our first news topic of the night, Marvel's Avengers is coming to Game Pass this month. Just a very short
right.
Point and laugh. It's almost the right price, because I still have to pay for a Game Pass membership.
Well, technically I'm not, because, I bought in for $1 for like 3 months, and I have Microsoft reward points for another 3-ish months, so... Before, maybe they'll give me another $1 for 3 months.
Yeah.
From what I've seen people talking about on it going on Game Pass, it's the right price if you want to play the single player stuff, but don't bother with any of the multiplayer stuff because it's just lousy with microtransactions and such as well. It still feels like Saturday Night Live Avengers though, because and this is as somebody that's not a fan of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. There's a set picture in my mind for all these characters as somebody that just casually seen a few of these movies. So seeing someone that doesn't really even look like that actor, let alone the voice, it feels weird.
Yeah. I want to play the single-player component of this. As a big Marvel fan, both from comics and the animated series and the MCU. But just, from everything I've heard and read and seen on this game over the last year and a half, is, it's just, mediocre. And there's so many games that I want to play that are probably good games, or that are games that I know nothing about. It could be... Or just continue to play Snowrunner. But, there's all of these games that I could be playing, and I'm like, I don't know if I want to play just a middling Marvel game.
Sort of like how, Fallout 76, it's been on Game Pass for a couple months now. I still haven't bothered with it.
Yeah. I mean, I knew I was never going to play Fallout 76.
Although it does sound like they are inching closer to an actual Fallout game.
Well, that's good.
There's maybe a few more expansions they'll actually get to a watered down Fallout game. Oh wait, they already released that. It's called Fallout 4.
You know what game I'm going to be playing soon? Sonic fucking Adventures 2. Talking about games that I'm going to be playing. I was scrolling through. I bought Sonic Adventure DX and Sonic Adventure 2. They were collectively $2 on Steam on a sale over the weekend. I played those games in my youth.
This is weird. Okay, so I'm not joking. I'll queue up just a bunch of YouTube videos to watch throughout the day as I poke around in the computer. pause, go do some housework, come back. And one of them was pro Jared talking about Sonic Adventures 2 today.
Well,
I'm not joking.
You go.
So now we have amateur Jared playing Sonic Adventures 2.
Right. Yeah, I played Sonic Adventures 2 in, like, I don't know, middle school maybe? Or it was on I don't remember. That would have been the early 2000s on GameCube. So, like, late elementary, early middle school, depending on the exact time frame. Like, I just remember having the little, like, chow guys that you raised. And from the first level, like, rolling around at the speed of sound. That's been stuck in my head for 2 decades now.
Oh, I so want to link you that video, but at the same time, it may discourage you.
That's okay. I don't have anything else to say other than Marvel's Avengers probably, kind of sucks, and I'm probably never going to play it, even though it's going to be quote unquote free on Game Pass. But
it's more of a just kind of chuckle because we don't have a whipping boy right now, so right.
Yeah.
And what the hell? I'll link you this. One of his older ones, but
Yeah. I will watch this probably tomorrow at work.
And I'm not joking. I've watched that today. Sometimes it's funny how the universe lines up.
It's a small world after all.
Yeah, don't sing that.
Okay.
I'd rather listen to Silas Greaves creep me out.
Okay. So yeah, our next news topic, or maybe our first real news topic, China bans live streaming by children under the age of 16.
Oh boy, right?
China just still doing stuff.
China's cracking down.
Yeah.
I mean, this isn't the only one. There's also a site that they're testing out that allows you to, or allows Chinese citizens to report games that aren't complying to their, honestly, going a little bit insane restrictions. Oh, and also that 3 hours of game time. It's also now single player stuff as well, because of course it is. There's somewhere, some Chinese official got in an argument with his kid. That's high up in the government. It has to be. There's some sort of catalyst here for this hard 180. We don't know what it is. We probably won't ever know what it is. But things are getting crazy.
Yeah. The actual core thing, banning live streaming by children under the age of 16, I kind of have mixed feelings about. Like, as a therapist and someone who has studied, child psychology and things like that, it's a really it seems to me like a really dubious proposition to put younger children on streaming platforms, even like early teens, just because of how influential and hormonal and all of that stuff, like that seems like a breeding ground for probable abuse being directed at these kids. But my second thought is okay, that seems like the likely outcome. Now let's study it and see if that's actually the case, or does it actually, have some socialization benefits or other things? Because generally speaking, gaming does have more benefits than it does drawbacks for kids, socializing and building motor skills and learning and, etc. Like, there tend to be way more benefits than there are issues or even potential issues. So, sort of my knee-jerk reaction is I don't like the way that China did it, but I kind of agree that, kids shouldn't be streaming. But then, the rational brain part of me is well, we should study it before we do anything, and we haven't studied this. So it's
never
it's
mind
really
the fact that this is also rolled into part of their, no effeminate men, no gay couples in games anymore. It's just it's a little. It's part of. It's that one, possibly maybe semi-rational part of an absolute insane, crazy package.
Yeah. If this existed in a vacuum, I might be okay, I can see where you're going with that. It's more complicated, but I can see where you're going, and then I probably wouldn't really think anything else about it. But yeah, this is like, I don't know, the palatable rotten cherry on top of like a shit sundae.
Actually, I would say the palatable one would be the fact that game publishers have to limit the amount of money a minor could spend in a game. Mind you, we don't know exactly the wording of this because this is all like translated sources of a third-party source, so we don't know exactly how this is worded or how this goes down. But according to at least the GameIndustry.biz, for an 8 to 15-year-old, it's 200 yuans, which is just north of $30, which sounds like a lot, but for a month, especially for a free-to-play game, that's actually not a lot, especially if it's the only thing that kid plays, right?
Yeah.
And mind you, this is possibly limited to the account itself and not a parent giving money to the kid to spend, because, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of craziness going on in this. I would still love to know the catalyst of this, because, there's somewhere that, it's like a Chinese official had their kid spend too much money on like Victory Foul or something, right?
Yeah.
Their knockoff version of Fortnite or whatever the hell it is. Or maybe Roblox. Maybe Roblox got to them.
Right, yeah. I can't think of a funny one for Roblox, though. Because I came up with... Or I said... I said, what was it? Castle Day earlier or something like that? When we were talking about this before the show. But yeah.
Or it could be like 40 night or something, because, right?
40 night. Or let's be real here, China historically ignores lawsuits filed against them from outside the country. So they would just call it Fortnite and, tell Epic to fuck off. Which,
well, funny, right?
If you're gonna be fucking around and finding out with all this other stuff, China, just go ahead, just make your own Fortnite. Call
with
it
blackjack
Fortnite.
And hookers.
Yeah, and tell Epic to fuck off. Since we're fucking around and finding out, let's do it with this too. Might as well, right? Fuck Epic, by the way. Fuck Epic Games.
Well, that would be a nice transition to the next one.
It would be. We could change the topic list around. We're the one who is in charge of this. Do you want to do that? Do you want to swap the topics list around?
Yeah, sure. Let's go. Let's swap the topics list around. So, speaking of fuck Epic Games, Apple's all on that one by saying,
looks like
you're not allowed on the App Store just yet because we still are technically in litigation. Which anybody that thought this wasn't going to happen is either a fucking fool or far too up Epic's ass.
Yep. Big ol' Epic fanboy. Or fangirl.
I mean, this is Apple's ball field. They get to say who plays, right?
Yep.
Now, do I think it's right that they have it locked down like this? Not really, but it's still funny.
It's funny. It's funny to watch multi-billion-dollar multinational corporations slap fight each other.
Now, it's not funny whenever they start to get their fans militarized, because both sides have some weird fucking fanatics. I mean, start to get a little off into Crazyville.
Yeah.
Of course, you would know all about Crazyville.
I do. I know all about Crazy Town. It's an interesting place to go to. But yeah, I just, it's, I think we talked about this last week or a couple weeks ago. Whenever we I think it was last week, whenever we covered the lawsuit, quote unquote ending, at least for now, and we'll see what goes on in litigation
with appeals and everything. I mean, we didn't expect them to come back, at least immediately. Honestly, especially if Apple loses in the long run, and they're not forced to allow Epic back onto the store, I honestly see them just saying, you're not allowed. You broke contract.
Yep. We're not being petty and vindictive. You broke contract. But they should totally be petty and vindictive towards Epic. Fuck Epic. Fuck Apple, too, for good measure. And Microsoft and Google. Like, just fuck them all.
Yeah. I mean, at least Android is more open, so you can still sideload stuff.
Yeah.
If something's taken off the App Store, it's not that difficult to load something onto a phone. Apple, on the other hand, you have to jailbreak it, and which leads to its own problems. And then start to try to get something onto it, which, good luck, right?
Yeah, good luck.
And depending on the model and such, it may not even have an exploit to jailbreak it yet.
But yeah, whenever I saw this, whenever we were doing the show notes and I saw it for the first time, I had a good little chuckle. He's like, yeah, serves you right.
Mm-hmm.
Take solace in this one small victory. I'll take that.
Yeah. I mean, we need our moments of just, evil chuckle. I mean, to be fair, we had one with Avengers and, Diet Soda Avengers. And now we have all the, kind of the flavor, but none of the calories of the real Avengers. But unfortunately, nasty aftertaste. But that's the monetization for you. But yeah. It's a lot funnier because you're tired.
And yes. That's pretty much a constant state of being for me, though, is tired. Yeah. I don't know if I have anything else to say.
Not really. I mean,
I already said it all with fuck Epic.
Yeah, pretty damn much, honestly. Don't worry. I'm sure the iPhone, 76, they'll finally let them back on, right?
Yeah. Maybe.
So, Twitch.
Indeed.
Finally doing something about those hate raids? Maybe. Yeah, Twitch reportedly launching new security tools to combat hate raid. Or hate raiding. So, this is a leak from a tweet that's from a journalist that covers streamer stories. So no idea if this is true or not, because right?
Yeah.
And there's no actual verification from Twitch as far as I've seen. So yeah, it's a couple of screenshots that show a set of tools for originally in German, but then translated into English that locks down chat based on verified accounts. Which the entire thing about these hate raids is that they're a bunch of bots with unverified accounts that just dogpile whoever they're hating on, because right. So it has both email and phone verification, where if somebody does have voice verification, they'll not be allowed, or with a phone number on their account, they're not allowed at all. Or if they don't have a phone number, if their account's older than a certain amount of time. And same with email. If you could allow anybody that has a verified email. You can allow anybody that doesn't have a verified email, or somewhere in between where it's an older account, or someone that's also an old account but also have followed you for a certain amount of time. But you could also suspend it for subscribers or VIPs or moderators. Well, they're still able to chat, never mind the fact that they may not follow these settings. So if this is true, and this is comes to fruition, this would do something to take some of the wind out of the hate raids. I mean, it still sucks that it has to be locked down because Twitch can't keep all the bots off and all the hate swarms, right?
Yeah. I feel like this is the bare minimum set of tools, though, that should have existed in Twitch
a few years ago.
Maybe not necessarily day one, but yeah, at least a few years ago. Like, this seems so easy, like just some more comprehensive filters to block people from chatting. Because even before hate raids, like, botting and utilizing new accounts to go harass people. Like, that's not a new thing on the internet. That has existed for
since like day 2 of the internet.
Yeah, like day 2 of the internet. 3 decades or something.
Yeah, day
like
1
like,
was them trying to buy weed from another college. That's actually a thing. That was one of the first transactions. Was illicit drugs, if not the first.
Nice.
If my history is correct. Or, I could just be going with Silas Greaves and misremembering plus legend and right.
Right, some myth-making, some internet myth-making, the Wild West days of the internet.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, these look like some useful tools that could have a significantly meaningful impact on a huge amount of the ways that, these hate raids are being conducted. But at the same time, I'm like, why take until now to do something that seems so obvious? Like, this isn't even like an obvious in hindsight thing. I have been seeing Twitch streamers complain for years about a lack of tools to filter their chat and keep spammers out. So, I don't know. Better late than never, I guess? Mm-hmm. I mean, I almost said credit where credit's due, but no, fuck Twitch.
I mean, that's kind of the thing. Once you get past a certain point, you start being, being innovative isn't as necessary as being reactionary.
Yeah.
And
Twitch seems willfully ignorant in this whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if willful ignorance or malicious is, worse for them at this point, but it's one of the two.
Mm-hmm.
Neither of them are good looks.
And also, I gotta admit that the idea of the raid function, they should have seen that immediately as being able to be just dogpile someone.
Yeah.
Especially once they brought in the more minority tags for different channels, right?
Yeah.
But hey, who would have foreseen somebody being assholes to one another on the internet, especially whenever they're semi-anonymous, right?
Yep. I have never seen or heard of that happening before. I am in shock and awe.
Yeah, I am shocked that there's people being assholes on the internet. Anyway, that Trump, he's a real asshole, isn't he?
Yeah. I mean, let's be real here. By as the only definer as being an asshole, I fall into that category. So, yeah. Twitch, being lazy.
Yeah,
being
pretty
lazy.
much. I mean, that's the thing, right?
Yep.
So, about time, but should have been, right?
Should have been years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Let's head over to our community corner where we got a tweet.
Yeah, hey, Twitter actually works. How about that?
Yay! We got a tweet that linked us over to a change.org petition.
Yeah, I'm not sure if this is anything official or if this is something that's just making the rounds.
Yeah. So following sort of everything, and I haven't seen this anywhere else. So either I missed the news or it's not something that has made like big headlines somewhere. But
yeah, I actually need to check this because, I mean, I'm not seeing any news on this, which could just be it's under the radar, or it could be. That's the thing, is that we don't know the person that did this. This is a Twitter follower or somebody that retweeted our last episode and then replied with this. So it could.
So I just dropped a second link that goes to where in the change.org petition they're saying that like this had been. Hang on, what is it that they said? Let me just go there and read it. It has come to our attention via Vice, and that's a link to that I just dropped, that there might be company-wide plans to lay off or retaliate against Activision Blizzard workers who, and it lists off a bunch of stuff, basically participated in the lawsuit or seeking to unionize, participated in the walkout last month, and etc.
Yeah,
if
this is
Activision
from
Blizzard,
Manuel Romero, by the way.
yeah, hello. But anyways, it says if Activision Blizzard, Activision King, or Blizzard executes a layoff for firing of these individuals, I, the undersigned, shall immediately cancel my World of Warcraft subscription, or any Activision Blizzard King subscription, or cancel any pending pre-order, or not purchase upcoming Activision Blizzard King video games or services effective immediately.
I mean, I've kind of already been taking part of this in the last, decade?
Yeah, same. We also will be vocal online about why we do so. Reach out to the press and your top stockholders. You must immediately terminate Wilmer Hale any retaliation plans and allow workers to unionize if they seek so. Only then maybe it would be worth claiming to set an example of video game industry concerning discrimination, harassment, or unequal treatment. So, it's a good idea. It has not gotten any traction. That's probably why it's not shown up on the news.
That's
it's
only got the union busting law firm that they hired.
Yeah. As of recording, only 226 people have signed this petition.
Which is kind of sad, huh? But it's also, like I said, I've seen no news about this at all.
Same. Do change.org petitions actually wind up ever doing anything?
Sometimes.
Okay.
Sometimes there's a comment or apology.jpg.
I'm like, I hope I don't sound like I'm being pedantic or whatever. Like, I'm genuinely, like, I've never really paid attention to whether or not they actually get anything done.
And it looks like it's been going on for a couple weeks because some of the two comments on here, it's from 2 weeks ago. One saying that's illegal for him to do so anyway. So, right? So this could be just kind of a feel-good petition anyway, possibly. But, depending on the state and, the contracts, they could just, say anything, really.
Yeah. I mean, I will say, like, even though it's illegal, like, so what? Like,
yeah, I mean,
these companies engage in illegal activity all the time.
I mean, honestly, the fines are more of a cost of business than actual deterrent.
Yeah.
Let's be perfectly honest, right?
Yep. So yeah, that's a petition. If you want to go sign it, there's a link
in the show
below
notes
where you can. Yep, in the show notes. But like you said, like we both said, like we have been participating in this petition for years.
Mm-hmm.
You longer than I have. I think the last thing I had a renewed subscription to WoW briefly 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah, but that's because of your
for
mother.
2 months. Yeah. But I mean, I don't have any.
Hey, if you show your mom this, she might buy your subscription.
She might. She might. But yeah, I haven't, I haven't played or subscribed to anything from Activision Blizzard in a long time. But yeah, that's it for our news topics this week.
If you wish
Rage,
to,
how can they get in contact with us?
If you wish to send us something, you do so at VGL Podcast on Twitter, like Manuel Romero, I believe it was, did. You could drop it by the Discord, which you can find over at vglpodcast.podbean.com. Or you could also email us, vglpodcast@gmail.com.
Indeed.
So, do you feel up to a doobly-doo?
I feel up to sleep. I might could get through a doobly-doo, but I've been yawning for a while now, so...
Okay, well, we could put it off till next week. Let you go to bed at a reasonable hour for once.
Right, try to, anyways.
Just have the dog sit on your head all night.
Oh yeah, she's in there barking at something right now.
Oh, that's the invisible demons. It's the same one that the cat stares at.
Very, very visible to her, and the cat as well. Like they know, the animals know. So yeah, hey Rage. You told them where they could get into contact with us in some places, but why don't you hit them with the rest of the socials?
Well, I've been Caffeine Rage. You could see me tweet about usually food or some sort of cooking project over at Gaming OCR. Or if you wish to be my friend, you could do so on Steam, Caffeine Rage. And you've been?
Gaming Psychologist. You can find me over on the YouTubes by searching for such. On Twitter at JMA4707. You can also find me participating in a Vampire the Masquerade weekly live stream at twitch.tv/runicarts.
Yeah,
every
the Jared
Wednesday night.
Eats Baby stream.
Yeah, Jared's going to face some consequences for his bad actions coming up soon. I got summoned to Fae Court.
Uh-oh.
Technically, our entire group got summoned to Fae Court, but it was made very clear that my character's actions were the main reason we were summoned to Fae Court. So, I'm going to have to defend myself legally for all of the atrocities I've committed and discrimination against the Fae. So yeah,
I know that's a serious thing, but my mind immediately went to the comic series, comedy series Night Court. So
yes, it's gonna be fun. We're gonna do some legal drama. Legal Eagle was mentioned several times during the process of finding out we had been summoned to court. So I'm gonna have to postpone my next few atrocities because the date that we're going to court was supposed to be the date that I was having a meeting with the town mayor, and I was about to do some atrocities to her. So that's gonna be postponed. We'll see about other atrocities, whether or not they are postponed. But anyways,
so the Jared gets his just desserts stream.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to figure out how to consume a fairy creature. I don't know how. I don't know if that'll be possible or if I'll be allowed to even get away with that. But if I can, I'm gonna do it.
Well, just hope they don't struggle too much because I imagine the wings would probably take on the way down.
There was I decided that my character was going to be prejudiced against magical creatures. And so he's racist against fairies and goblins and other folkloric creatures. So, and I have brutally murdered them. I made some very lewd comments about a little fairy creature that showed up, comparing her to Tinkerbell and stuff. I'm this is, I couldn't really argue. Yeah, I've been a really bad character. But that's kind of the character I set out to play. So mission accomplished, I guess? I don't know. We'll see how Fairy Court goes.
Which I imagine that there's going to be so many comments about it being Fairy Court, right?
Yes. It's going to be fun, though. It's going to be fun. I'm looking forward to it. I'm going to be boning up on my legal defense strategies beforehand.
Allegedly.
That's going to be, if everything goes, according to plan, which let's be real, it never does, so it'll probably take longer, but that's supposed to be in 2 sessions. So we have one session where we all get to discuss our legal defense and plan, and then the next session we go to court.
Allegedly.
So, yeah. But anyways, that was all the places you could find me. I said them all.
Which, once again, if you wish to contact us, you could do so VGL Podcast with your layers, voicemails, game-related topics, or tweet them to us, VGL Podcast, or drop by the Discord, which you can find a link to that over at vglpodcast.podbean.com, which also hosts the RSS feed, the show notes to all our stuff, and all our sources for the podcast. Our lovely, lovely patrons have made this possible. You can do so. You can find out more over at patreon.com/VGL Our intro and outro music is On the Ground by Kim McLeod. You can find his work at Incompetech.com. And
as always, as his lovely music starts to roll across my voice, bye now.
See ya.
Bye.